Welcome back to Open Spaces, everybody. We're glad that you are back with us today. Today, who do we have on the podcast?
We are continuing along in our parenting series, and we have Laurie Krieg joining us today. And she's joining us from Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have a little online conversation. Laurie Krieg is incredible. She is an author, a speaker. Has done a podcast. She works for the Center for Faith, Gender, and Sexuality, and she is an amazing voice in the sexuality conversation today. She has her own broken past with finding her sexual identity, and she is now married to Matt and has 3 kids. She has an incredible ministry on her own, and like I said, she works for the Center for Faith, and she has an amazing story, and now she's giving a lot of her time and energy into helping train parents and families around having these conversations around sexuality. So she joins us today to help us understand it better, and it's an incredible conversation.
Yeah, we get to ask tons of questions. A lot of it is geared towards asking questions about, like, how would you talk to your kids, your young kids, your kids who are, all the different ages, and how do you engage with them in this conversation and normalize talking to them about it, as well as towards the end of the conversation, I actually start asking a lot of questions that we've gotten from listeners on my son has left the house and he's now telling me he's gay and he wants to introduce us to his partner. How do you handle that? So I asked her a ton of questions at the end of just like, hey, while we got you, I just want to ask you these things to kind of see what you would say to our listeners through our parenting series. So she has so much wisdom. We're really grateful for her and our newfound friendship and partnering together today on Open Spaces. So y'all welcome Laurie Krieg.
Hey, we are here with our new friend, Laurie Krieg, and we are very excited.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, Laurie.
Yes, Laurie, we've admired you from afar for a while in all your work and listened to so many of what you have said on podcasts and things. And I love that the Lord has introduced us because we align so much with you on how you see the gospel and how you see this whole issue of sexuality. And so, yeah, we're just so honored that you would join us today on Open Spaces. So thanks for being with us.
Honors all over on this side. So I'm super excited to talk with you guys.
So where are you coming from in the world?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So we're finally out of the tundra. It's 70 to 80 every single day. We're looking at a beautiful state for about 3 months.
Nice.
Love
awesome. For 3
awesome.
months. Yeah. Love it. Well, I want to hop in and just explain, Laurie, I think it will be helpful for people that don't know who you are, because we're going to get into, we have so many questions, and I hope that you are not going to get annoyed with all the questions we're going to ask you.
Nope.
But you have a lot of wisdom, and I just think that people need to understand, if they have never heard of you, know who you are, I want them to get a glimpse of why you feel equipped and your journey in order to. So I want to share a little bit of your story. I would love for you to, you don't have to go too deep in it, but I think it would be important for people to understand, who is she, that she can speak to this topic with such clarity and with such conviction personally.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to just kind of open us up with just who you are, your story, just a brief background.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, every time I talk with people who are in human sexuality spaces, you're like, how'd you get in here? And there's usually a collective groan to begin, because you're like, ugh.
Yes. We started somewhere bad and we have now reached somewhere else.
It's like insert furnace of suffering here is the groan.
So
So that's the intro, is a big groan. But how I like to share my story is I was born like everyone with a God-shaped hole in my heart. And instead of being oh, what fills that God-shaped hole in your heart? You're like, Jesus, which is true. I like to talk about how we need Jesus. We need to be seen and known and loved and chosen and nurtured. There's these good needs inside of that God-shaped hole in our heart. And God created us before the fall, good and needy. We're supposed to find our completion in Him. St. Augustine's you've made us for yourself, O Lord. And our heart is restless until it finds its rest in you. Yeah. But all of us, born post-fall, take those needs to idols, to church-acceptable ones and unacceptable ones. All of us are born that way because of the fall. We're all born. with
right.
a predisposition, default, or orientation to get the good needs of our heart met in ways that don't actually satisfy and
Right.
don't glorify God.
That's right.
So we take it to church acceptable things like performance and people pleasing and, perfectionism and whatever that is, and home renovations, whatever it is. We take those good needs to be seen and known and loved. We take it to the world. So I had that inside of me doing church acceptable things growing up. My dad was a pastor, Christian home, 11 brothers and sisters. We were on focus on the family. Like we were the leader family.
Yeah.
9th of 12 kids. And then I also felt from a very young age this draw toward other girls. Like I felt, it's hard to say the word attraction because you're so young.
Right.
And so to be like, it's just like, I felt differently about them than I did about boys. Boys were like my 5 brothers who I punched and hit and played G.I. Joes and Legos with.
Yes.
Where girls, there's just like this interest. So growing up, though, in 80s and 90s, moral majority, evangelical America, it wasn't like, oh, that's your version of sexual brokenness. You need to surrender to the lordship of Christ like everyone else is called to do. It was like, oh, no. That's like almost categorically not sin because it's so sinful. It's like so pagan. Like Christians don't struggle with it. So I didn't know I needed to surrender it because I didn't know it was something that I can say, God, you have allowed this in me, so I surrender this to you.
Yeah.
Fast forward to college, Christian college. I'm Christian leader girl, leading worship, leading small groups, and I loved Jesus as much as I knew how. My dad was a pastor, and I found myself in a secret same-sex relationship with another girl who was a Christian. And I was so baffled because the only narratives around homosexuals back then, this is early thousands now, like 2006.
Yeah.
The only language around then was like, you were a homosexual and you're sleeping around and you're definitely not a Christian and you're like snorting crack.
Right.
I was like, I love Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I love Jesus as much as I know how. And I have this secret same-sex relationship. I felt like Paul in Romans 6, 7, and 8. Like, I know I actually believe God's design. But I have this God-shaped hole in my heart that is feeling seen and known and met with her. But the problem when idols are meeting and scratching the itch of our heart is it's like they scratch it, but like a bug bite. Idols never satisfy. You need more, more, more. So here I am like Paul saying, why do I do what I don't want to do? And yet I do want to do it and I don't want to do it. Who will save me from this life of sin and death? Go to therapy. Because that tension was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And it led me to suicidal ideation. I meet with this therapist, and the most amazing thing about her is she didn't just know therapeutic interventions. She knew God. And she understood the deeper needs beneath my wants.
Yeah.
This God-shaped hole in my heart to be seen and known and loved. And she'd ask me weirdo questions like this, Laurie, when you picture the ideal perfect woman, what do you picture? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that because you're like 60 and this is awkward. But then I remembered HIPAA, which is, HIPAA, you like whatever happens in therapy stays in therapy. So I was like, what do I got to lose? I'll answer the question. And I was like, I want to be seen and known and loved. And she looks at me in the eye and she's like, Laurie, those are good needs. You've just taken them to the wrong place. Now, the right place would not be for me to just like take all my emptiness and bring it to a dude. For me to take my idolatry and be like, oh, here, you complete me. That's also idolatry.
Just moving from one place to another. Yeah.
So I was like, well, I know that you're going to say the answer is Jesus. Don't say Jesus because I'm like a super Christian and I've tried Jesus and he's failed me too. She's like, well, the answer is Jesus. Don't hurt me. But she said, Laurie, you have a lot of barriers between those good needs of your heart and the need meter of your soul. Yes, one of those barriers was confessing sexual sin, but another barrier was realizing that the church didn't know how to walk with someone like me.
Yes.
I didn't know I could grieve that.
Yeah.
I thought I deserved the vitriol. I thought I deserved the stones. And I didn't know that Jesus actually went in front of the stones and sat next to me, like the woman caught in adultery, and saved her life and pointed his finger back at everyone else and actually took the stones on himself. I didn't know
Mm,
that Jesus was for me too.
mm.
And when I met that Jesus, who died for my version of sexual brokenness too, I fell in love.
That's amazing.
That is
And that love, Ephesians 3 says, may you know this love, though it is so great you'll never fully understand it. Then you'll be filled with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. God's love empowers us to die to self daily. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Amazing.
Gosh, what a story. I love how God has redeemed that and brought you around to what is actual, true, and fulfilling in life. That is what I have found as well. And I love that that is for you.
It's amazing.
Um,
Now you're married to
Yeah.
Matt and you have 3 kids, right? 3?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep,
how old
yep.
are your kids?
11, 9, and 6.
Okay. And then you and Matt, well, let's talk about some of the other things that you're doing right now. Like, let's talk about this.
I have my visual aid.
Raising wise kids, some sexual broken world. Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
it
Oh, you guys are so fun.
In a sexually broken world. This book, Jordan and I have both been reading it, and it is just so full. What we love about it is that we have realized in sharing our own story that we don't want the narrative being, oh, same-sex attraction is the banner of our life.
Right. Or even overcoming same-sex attraction.
Yeah. I want the banner of my life being that Jesus fulfills, and Jesus is the ultimate in life, and like he can do the impossible. And that's for everybody, whether that's sexually in sexual brokenness or idolatry, whatever the things are in their own life, because we've all got them.
Yep.
But I love so much how everything you do is centered around the gospel. And so I think that's so amazing that you would center everything around the gospel. And it always comes back to that about Jesus and him being the center. So even as we were talking about that, Jordan was talking about like how she grew up. Why don't you talk about that? Like how you were growing up in a black and white world.
I love your perspective, because even for someone like me who, I grew up similar, it sounds like to you, like in a Christian home, I loved the Lord. I did not veer away from what I was taught, and kind of the way that I made decisions was very much around like, well, this is what we're supposed to do, and I want to please God, and this is like I am, a classic people pleaser, but it wasn't like because I necessarily felt like the gospel needs to be the center of everything.
Right.
So can you even unpack that for like the Christian person, like who thinks that they're living their life, in the right ways, or, making their good choices? But I think that there's such an important shift, because your message is so like, yes, let's talk about sexuality and let's talk about sexual brokenness, but only through the lens of the gospel. So can you talk about like that kind of shift of like, we're not just doing this because it's the right thing to do, but like, was the center.
Whenever, like, to your point, like I so relate to that desire to struggle with perfectionism and performance and people pleasing. And like I said, like those were the church acceptable sins.
Right. Totally.
And it's hard because it's like, okay, well then what do? You just like don't do anything good. And it's like, no, you've got to live your life in, I say this to my kids. I say, so you have this God-shaped hole in your heart, guys. Like, I know, Mom. And I was like, you have to, some people who have all the money or all the fame or all of the perfectionism, performance, the Pharisees of the world, I said, they're living like a line and not like a circle. Let me explain. Like when you have the God-shaped hole in your heart and you're doing even good things, but it's for you. It's like, it's just going into your heart and it's just like, fill more. I said, when God created us to live like a circle, is that when we say, oh, look at this good stuff, I'm on vacation, or look at, I got this award. It's like award season for my kids right now. Or, hey, we did this good thing at church. I led worship. You don't let it fill the hole in your heart and stay there. You pour it back out as worship to God.
That's amazing. That's it.
You live like a circle. It goes in and out, instead of like a line where it just goes in. So people who hold to an affirming worldview of sexuality, they'll be like, okay, well then why can't I just have a same-sex relationship to the glory of God?
Mm,
And that is outside of God's path of flourishing.
that's
It was an idol, and it was outside of God's path of flourishing,
Mm.
where we can do good things for God. Let's look at the book of James, where it can be worship, where it's like, God, I'm doing this for you. But if we're living outside of God's path of flourishing when it comes to sexuality or money or whatever it is, then there's no way to have that worship God, because it's evil. It's sin.
Yes.
There's no way
Yes.
it can't, because it's outside of his path of flourishing. So that might have answered your question, but we can dive more into why we need to talk about the gospel when it comes to human sexuality as well.
Well, that's amazing. I love that. And I love that it all ends in worship, because that's our entire life. Like
That's right.
what we are giving our life to. So I love all that. I want to actually get into more about the book. Okay. So I want to walk through, we're doing this parenting series. We, as you know, in this space, when you open up your life in this way and we share our experience, whether or not you're the expert or not, people will come to you now because you have opened
Wow.
up the door of like, okay, so you must know everything about this.
Right.
So now I'm going to make you the expert, and I'm going to be you, and I'm going to ask you all the questions. But really,
Okay.
I want to ask, I kind of want to walk through some age appropriate things with parents that are listening that really want, we've got so many parents, like enormous amount of parents like writing us saying, how do we do this in all these different stages of life with our kids? So I want to ask some specifics, if that's cool. Kind of walk through. The first thing I want to hit on is something I love about your message, is that we have been around people who there's a majority, or a lot of people who are so fearful or afraid to talk about LGBTQ, gay, same-sex attracted with their kids, to use those words to invite their kids into the conversation. And while I understand, because even though that's my experience, I still have this fear that leads me. And if I say this to my kid, they may actually start thinking that's an option. And so that's a real fear of mine, just even somebody who's lived
Yeah.
this. But what I love about you is you come you just go straight into it. And I want to ask the question to you starting off is like, what do you see when parents don't address the topic and they just continue, and whether that, first off, why do you think people don't address it? Do you think it's fear? Do you think that is the main reason why parents are like not talking about it?
I think we're all bumping into Act 2 of the gospel, which is fall. So we got creation, fall, redemption, recreation. We're in the fall. Actually, we're living in redemption time, but we bump into it a lot. And then we all trauma response everywhere. Fight,
Yeah.
flight, freeze, fawn, which is people please. And you're seeing all those reactions all over the internet all the time. And in ourselves, we all do it. I do it. I bump into, oh, look invented a new way to sin. Okay, great. And I do fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I pick one of them. We're all trauma responding. So I think fear is a big piece of it, and we're just trauma reacting.
Yes. And what do you let's talk about how you approach it with your kids, because I want to talk. We love your approach as we're reading even this book. We're just all in on let's talk about what age is appropriate that you would say, or / is there an age that is appropriate? And how do you enter that conversation with your kids?
About LGBTQ specifically,
Yes.
about same-sex attraction. Okay.
Specifically LGBTQ culture, like inviting them into this conversation about sexuality in a healthy way. How have you done that in a healthy way?
How do we equip our kids? Step 1, you go alone and you take some deep breaths and you look at Jesus with your phone nowhere near you, because that thing is a fear machine. That thing wants to stir it all up. You don't have it near you at all. And you say, Jesus, Son of the living God, have mercy on me. I'm so afraid. Or Jesus, I'm so angry. Jesus, I'm so frozen. I don't know how to do this. And you pray. And if you're like, I don't even know what to say, you pray, then you study. So you grab my book, you grab our video resource that we did, you talk to these guys, you find whatever you can to be like, God, what do I say in simple, age-appropriate ways? And then you wing it.
There you are. Okay, great. So explain how you wing it. Explain how you bring those conversations into your family by winging it.
So my mom, my teacher's married is a man and he's married to a man. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So ideally, we parents, we go ahead of our kids, but sometimes that doesn't happen. You know, we were at the beach this weekend. I was like, oh, there's two men having a relationship right now, and my kids are right here. We got to talk about this. So sometimes it doesn't happen. So two teachers, or your teacher's married to a guy, and you didn't know this as a mom. This is what you're gonna do. This is how I do the winging it part. Is you explain what is going on. You are going to talk about it. And I think some way that the parents feel afraid is we think we have to be like sexually explicit. No, you don't. No, you don't. We can say this in very simple terms, and I'll give you some ideas how. What's going on? Why is it not God's design, God's good design? We're not just going to speak out of a theology of no, we're going to speak out of a theology of yes. Why? Yeah. Because that actually helps our brains calm down. And also, when we explain the why behind the rules, kids are more likely to follow the rules. So we're going to say God's yes. So we're saying the what's going on. This is Act 2 of the Gospel of the Fall. Then we're going to go back to creation. What? Why is it not God's good design? Then we're going to go to redemption and recreation is how do we love? What? Why? How? So, to a teacher married to a dude. Hey, buddy. Your kid could be any age. Honestly, I started talking to my kids about same-sex marriage when they were 3 because they asked me. But they asked me if 2 girls could get married.
You group towards them. You didn't say like, oh, we don't like, you didn't shy away from it or.
No, because I knew I could do it without being sexually explicit, without it traumatizing their brain. I didn't need to talk about intimacy. I can talk about the what's going on. Why is it not God's good design? How do we love in simple ways? So I would say like, hey, buddy, here's the what's going on. Did you know that sometimes in the world, people struggle with, like boys struggle with, and I use language of struggle, which this can be a trigger word for some people because some people went through like ex-gay ministries and they had only were allowed to use the language of struggle. And so I sound like I'm trying to pray the gay away. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm not saying that. You may be hearing that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is something that our God, it's not part of God's created design. So we struggle in the flesh with sin.
Yes.
I struggle with this. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm not saying that to my kids. I'm just saying some people struggle. Yeah. Some boys struggle with heart-izing. That's the language and little kid language in our house, or liking other boys. What? So I'm still explaining what. I went bigger picture. What's going on? Some girls struggle with heart-izing or liking other girls. What? Listen, talk to what are their reactions? We're not supposed to like our friends. I know, buddy. We're not supposed to. And so I just did what? I didn't even talk about the teacher yet. That's going to be the how. What is going on? Why is this not God's good design? I know, but God doesn't want us for girls to marry girls or boys to marry boys, does he? No. Why not, buddy? No, this could have been a separate conversation. This could happen in this conversation. Whatever your kid's attention span is. You may only hit one of these or part of these at a time.
Right, with a kid.
God wants marriage to be between a mommy and a daddy. 2 people whose bodies are different. Because when mommies and daddies love each other, even though they're so different, they show you a picture of how big is God? He's so big. How much he loves you. Even though he's so different from us.
Yes.
You heard nothing about sexual intimacy in what I just said.
Right.
And I just used the fall, as God does, to twist it into what God, enemy meant for evil, God can use for good. I'm talking about God's good, created, ordered intent. Is mommies and daddies. It shows a picture of how much God loves you. Look at what you just taught your kid. You literally just taught them the whole meta-narrative of the Bible, which could be summed up in 5 words. God wants to marry us. 2 different things coming together. Jesus sending his son. You just did it out of evil. Okay, now how? Now, did you know that your teacher, I'm going to use struggle language again. Does his teacher use struggle language? Nope.
Right.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your teacher struggles with liking other boys. What? Yup, he's actually married to another boy. What? Do you hear my tone?
Yeah.
Do you hear how I'm not raging? Because I'm secure in God's design. I don't need to rage.
Yes.
God is the judge. I'm the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, buddy, yeah, he's actually married to someone. Oh, I know he's struggling with that. But do you know we all struggle with things? Now, again, if your kid's attention span is gone, the struggle piece of this conversation, this might be another conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all struggle with things, don't we, buddy? Yeah, Mom. What do you struggle with? I struggle with wanting to hit my sister when I'm mad. Yeah. What's she struggle with? Oh, she struggles with lying. What does Mommy struggle with? Mom struggles with making work her life. That's right. We go around the horn a lot. What are you wrestling with? How can we bring this to God? Now, honey, what are we supposed to do with those struggles? We're supposed to take it to our family. Really, community is what I'm teaching them. Family and to Jesus. Yep. So your teacher's not taking it to Jesus. So how are we going to talk to him about this? I'm going to walk up to him and tell him that he's not living for Jesus. No, you're not.
Let's not do that. Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to love him. We're going to talk to him. And we're going to pray for him to take those struggles to Jesus, just like we pray for ourselves to take our struggles to Jesus.
Yes.
What you just did, what's happening really in the world, generally in the world? Why is it not God's good design? We want to go to the good, not just the no, and the theology of yes, not just no. And how are we going to love our neighbor? We just did that. You might have to circle through this many times. I'll pause and I want to hear from y'all. But there is a whole other layer of conversation, another layer to this that could be, well, would you let your kids have a gay teacher? We could talk about that. But I'm just saying, if this is what it is, here's a way you could shape it for your kids.
That's so good. In order to do that, though, y'all have come at it with like such a already biblical sexual view. Like you've already taught your kids in the home of the difference of a man and a woman. I hear that a lot from what you teach. Just like this is like how the basis of like in your home that starts the conversation, so that when you get to the man does not marry a man, there's why, because well, sexually, like that God made us this way in this different kind of man and female.
Yeah.
So that's like the basis, and that's just taught in your home, like from the beginning. Is that kind of like you just kind of bring that into conversations, and you're like bringing them along and not afraid to just dive into it at any age?
Yeah. So like literally my daughter was 3 years old. Mom, can two girls marry each other? She's just looking at a book that has a wedding in it. And she's like, oh, can I marry my friend? She just thought it. And I was like, what? So the first time I talked about marriage needs to be different was in that moment, was in a response to brokenness.
Right.
Do I wish I had been like teaching it for, I don't know, at 2, I guess, but sometimes you can't prepare. Like I want to go first, but honestly, what I love, June is coming up, or, there's, maybe this is airing in June or whenever, this is a great time to be like, hey, do you know what that flag means? Parents need to go first. Can I introduce one more concept, this anchoring bias concept? Parents, I know you're so scared, but it's so good for you to go first, because if you go first, there's this concept called the anchoring bias, which means the first place you hear about a topic. So new concept, first place you hear about it becomes the anchor, or the gold standard to which you compare everything else you hear about that topic. You compare it to the first place you heard it. So who do you want telling your kids about same-sex marriage?
Right.
Do you want it to be kids on the playground or the internet or their teacher, or like either on the left or their right, their teacher?
Right.
I want it to be the gospel through you, their loving, trusted adult who can be like, nope, I'm not scared.
Yes.
Yep, these are neighbors we're going to love, who invite to know and love Jesus and follow with Jesus with all of their struggles. So I want it to be you, so that everything else they hear about it, they compare to you, the gospel through you.
What have you studied and observed with the parent that just says, like when that kid asks and they say, the parent's like, oh, I don't want that, almost is like shuffles it away. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Or like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. Like, how has that how does that affect a kid because that's a common thing that parents, when they are fearful, do. How have you seen that play out with kids, and like, how does that affect a kid where they feel silenced, or like, I don't know.
I know. So, I mean, for you and me, Jeff, like if we had grown up in homes like that, which you guys, it's like 1/3 of kids are identifying as LGBTQ right now. You don't know that's not your kids. When
Right.
you say shove question, kids keep it quiet for 4 years inside
Yeah.
if they're
Yeah.
wrestling with it. So for you to be like, this is something we talk about, and I'm not scared, and I'm also not going to be affirming of same-sex marriage, but my kids have no doubt about where we stand.
Yeah.
I pray. Ask him in 10 years.
Yeah.
I love and truth. I hope that's what they're hearing, and I hope that they're hearing, I'm not scared of this. So I do see parents who talk about it, and no, we don't talk about that. Kids grow up and feel like, okay, it's not safe, so they do go to the internet with their
Yeah.
same-sex attractions. They do go to porn. They do go to neighbors and friends, and that's not as wonderful as you, the loving, trusted adult in their life. Then for other kids who do not experience same-sex attractions or wrestle with gender, it's just like there's this other concept called the unformulated experience. And this is where you see something confusing in the world, which your kids are noticing more than you even know. Like, I think my 11-year-old's only seeing the trans couple next to us. And then it's this, I bring it up because I'm like, okay, Laurie, go first. And then my 6-year-old is like, yeah, why is that girl trying to be a boy? Unformulated experience. So when they see something they don't understand, kids, it goes in their right brain and it's like bouncing around. Tick, 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 tick. You, the parent, have a treasure of a gift called language. And when you serve your children by interpreting the chaotic world around them with left brain language, they see this and you give them left brain language to it, it just calms them down. Helps them feel safer in the world, and it also equips them to be more powerful agents of light in the world because they see it, they can name it, and they can also speak what's true.
Yes. That is so good.
Amazing. I want you to talk about how you. So I love how you talk about like idolatry and how we idolize marriage and kind of Christian societal norms and that kind of thing. And I love how you talk about this like everything you just said it, but like everything in everything we're thinking about how we can bring light into the darkness. So can
Yes.
you kind of talk about that from a parenting perspective of like how the language that we give our kids, even the ways that we might unknowingly or want like kind of teach them that they're supposed to want to be married, and how we can reframe some of that language around just like I like how you talked about why when your daughter asked you why does she have to go to school, ultimately you're like, well, we're all trying to push back the darkness, and
Yes.
you're going to school so you can learn what you're good at and how God wants you to join with him, and like that language is so amazing. Just everything is kind of circulating around that. But talk about that as it relates to how we like idolize marriage and moving us towards just more of a gospel centered view in
Yeah.
our communities.
Yeah. So I've been in this field for 12 years. And I have been walking with parents. My husband, Matt, is a licensed mental health therapist who specializes in human sexuality. We've walked with hundreds of grown-up people who wrestle with same-sex attractions or gender, or identify as LGBTQ at some level, and their parents, probably collectively thousands by now.
Yeah.
And as a mom, our oldest is almost 12. And I'm like listening to these stories and I'm reading the Bible and I'm looking at my kid and I'm like, how much of this suffering could have been alleviated if we actually made the main thing the main thing? If we actually believed the purpose of our life was not to get married and make Christian babies and tithe and die, but our actual purpose of life was to glorify God and enjoy him forever, and that he gave us a mission to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue, and rule, which sounds super boring and like he wants us to just all plant gardens and tomatoes and cucumbers. It actually means that we're supposed to live as he lives and love as he loves and be fruit and to be advance the kingdom of God, or as I say it in kids speak, push back the darkness and usher in the light. What if we actually believed that? Why am I saying that? Okay, let's go to that story that you mentioned of my daughter. Mom, I don't want to go to school. Why do I have to go to school? And there is a part of me that wants to be like, okay, well, you need to go to school so that you can get a good job and become a marketable spouse and get out, because mommy is tired and you are expensive.
Yeah.
That's sinful. But that's in our ethos. That's in the zeitgeist. That's in the air, right? Is like, okay, you got to become a marketable spouse and get out and blah, blah, blah. Glory to God. Something about God. No. What if we actually lived it? What if we actually talked to our kids in these mundane moments like we actually believed that God was the focus?
Yeah.
So I thought about it. I swallowed my initial response. I was like, Juliet, well, okay, wait. Let's play that out. Let's say I say, Juju, you need to become a marketable spouse. Let's say 10 years down the road, she comes to me, Mom, I actually experienced same-sex attractions, but you've been telling me my whole life that my purpose is to get married. So I'm just not going to marry a boy. I'm marrying a girl. Yay. And I'd be like, oh, okay. In that moment, I have a choice. I can either be like, and I need to pray the gay away real quick so that then she can marry a dude and have a good life. Or I need to become affirming so then she can marry a girl and have a good life. Or what if, fast forward 10 years, Juliet is her name. We call her Juju. What if she never finds the one?
Yeah.
Is her life less than? What if she marries a big fat jerk who's abusive? Has to divorce him. Is her life over? So I'm like, shoot, what is the actual purpose of her life? And how do I say this to a 7-year-old who's eating Lucky Charms and doesn't want to go to school? I say, Juliet, do you remember how God created the world good? Yeah, Mom. And sin came and messed it up. So it was light, and then there was darkness. This darkness came. Yes, Mom. And then Jesus came to redeem. Yes, Mom. And it's all going to be restored, redeemed in the end. Yes, Mom. Well, God has made you a little light warrior. And when you go to school, you figure out all the gifts that God has given you, and you shape them and hone them, and you figure out what kind of gifts to be your specific version of light warrior. So you can stand next to me and your dad and your brother, your sister, and everyone else who knows and loves Jesus, and we can push back the darkness and usher in the light.
Yes.
Juliet might be called to singleness. And that is just as good as marriage, because both are ways we can push back the darkness and usher in the light to the glory of God. Her life's not over if she experiences same-sex attractions. Her life's not over if she doesn't get married. Her life is not over if she's called to singleness. Her life is good because it's part of the kingdom of God advancing that we're all called to.
So good. Oh, that's so good. I love that so much, just in so many ways. That is such a healthy perspective, because I think parents also, we idolize marriage
Dude.
in such a massive way. And parents, we even started seeing that now. We want to be have our kids have grandkids, have their kids and be our grandkids. And I don't want to make that the new idol.
Right.
Yes.
And so really putting the gospel lens on that, and that is something that we have really come around with our ministry, is just we don't want you to deny your attractions just to be a better person. We think that God has a plan for your life, that's something out there that he wants you to do to fulfill the Great Commission. I mean, this is what we're here for. So get out there and do it, and stop laser focused on your sin and the thing in front of you that feels so big. And what is the purpose of your life? And I love that you're taking it off of marriage, and that, and it's more the holiness of what is God calling you to? And that's what we, in the mission, it just is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm going to ask, do you have anything else? Because I want to ask a couple practical questions again, because people ask us and we're not the experts, but you are.
You guys, you're doing great. You're doing
Do you
great.
have anything else before we dive into that?
No,
you
not
want to?
before. I have something after, but yeah, let's do the
Okay.
practical.
So we've already kind of talked about what you would do if your kids see, you're out in the wild and they see a couple same sex or, whatever. I think we've kind of hit on that one. So I think we've got that one down. But what would you say to the parent who says, my child has come to me and they're young and they're talking like they have these attractions towards the same sex, and they're wanting to, a boy's wanting to dress up in girls' clothes and that kind of thing. How would you help a parent in moving forward with a gospel-centered mindset, and how would you lead them and through that?
How old is the kid? How old-ish?
8 to 10.
8 to 10, and they're wrestling. So dressing up in girl clothes, if it's a boy, that's wrestling with gender.
Yes.
That's not attractions to the same sex. Those are different. So which one do you want me to tackle?
Talk about the gender. Talk about that.
Gender. Okay, so boy is wrestling, and this is important because I am seeing online, there's a lot of people who mix the two up. So if I could just real quick
This is important.
delineate, this is
Go
very
on that.
important.
Yes.
So wrestling with same-sex attractions does not equal sign wrestling with gender. So
Okay.
same-sex attractions is I am attracted to the same sex. So this is like a sexuality thing. This is an attraction thing. Gender's different. Gender is, generally speaking. So bear with me. You look in a mirror. Let's say I'm a boy, and I look in the mirror as a boy, and I see my boy body. How I feel inside as a boy, I don't feel like a boy when I look in the mirror. I feel like the two don't match. My insides and my outsides don't match. That's not a sin. That's the effects of sin on someone. Similar to me, Laurie. So I experienced trauma as a kid. And I can, as a grown-up woman now, be physically safe in a room. But inside, I don't feel safe. My insides and my outsides don't match.
Yeah.
That's not a sin. That's the effects of sin on me. Now, where it becomes sin. If I was to reach for alcohol, reach for my phone, reach for whatever to try and alleviate this in unhealthy, non-glorifying God ways, that's where it becomes sinful. Now, this is tricky.
Yeah.
People who wrestle with this dissonance, where does it become sin? Is it my friends who are girls who wrestle with gender, if they wear a boy t-shirt, is that sin? What's a boy t-shirt? What about a boy who wrestles with gender? He wears a girl t-shirt. Oh, we get a little hairy scary around this one. What's a girl t-shirt? So practically speaking, is it okay? No, it's when you take hormones. It's when you do surgery. It's if you socially transition, if it's pronouns, if it's your name. So I just want to say we're making it all like LGBTQ equals sin. And I'm like, can we talk about, can we have grace for the struggle no matter what? And can we talk a little bit more, especially about gender? Because we need compassion for people. Not only don't use that pronoun. It's what's it like to be you and wrestle with this? That must be hard. Okay. So 8 to 10-year-old boy wants to wear a dress. Okay. So there's a very, very, very small percent of people who wrestle with diagnosable gender dysphoria, and it is distressing. Like what I just described, that distress, wanting to cut their skin off, just feels so much suffering. If you're seeing this, you're in your kid, distress for 6 months or more, they're praying for body parts to be removed or added. They're hurting themselves. They're in this deep place. You want to find, and this is hard, you want to find a helper, a counselor, of someone who's a specialist in this space and who will not fast track them to transitioning to resolve it. You want someone empathetic, wise, and who can get to the heart of it and walk with this individual with grace and truth and love. Okay.
Yes.
So that just be aware. And if you're like, I don't know, is it real? Is it not? Is this just, you had a bad day?
Right.
You can ask some friends, ask some experts, you can DM me and I can give you a list of very few people who I would recommend you talk to, because not everyone is safe in this space, on either extreme. So, but I have found there are studies that say 85% of kids who wrestle with gender grow out of it by age 25. And so I am curious, there's a chunk of kids who wrestle, who I would just be very curious with more questions. If it's not like a distress from something inside, they're not on the internet. You can't see an outside influence. There's not trauma. It's just real. If it's other categories, I would be looking into things like, what are they consuming online? How have they been assaulted by the internet? I am at this point absolutely convinced that first exposures to porn are child abuse, because most children are exposed to porn. Most adults, you ask them when they first saw it, they were children. And that is never something that should be seen. That is never something that a brain can comprehend. So I would deal with the trauma of whatever that is.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
let's work on the clothing later. Let's talk
Right.
about this.
Yes.
There's this other piece too. I've walked with many people who wrestle with gender, and they have such a high need for belonging, as we all do. But like how I
Yes.
said that God-shaped hole in our heart, it seems to be cranked up really loudly in my friends who wrestle with gender. This is a generalization, so bear with me. But I would ask questions of that boy that wants to wear a dress. I'm like, what do you like about the dress?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean? I'm not just yelling at my kid and saying, put on boy clothes. Get curious.
Yeah.
What is it about it? Is it the color? Is it the fabric? My husband, Matt, is straight as the day is long, never has wrestled with gender. He's like, Laurie, why are girl clothes so much more fun than boy clothes? I'm like, you're right. I feel like,
Yeah.
what if you found like a boy clothes that was like actually a fun material? Maybe he's very tactile. What if it's actually fun colors and not just boring? Like,
Yes.
is it actually that he wants to belong in fun girl world?
Yeah.
What if he could be fun, his version of boy?
Mm.
What if he could, and this is a big burden, especially on dads, and guess what? This is your burden you get to carry with Jesus, is let your sons be their version of boy.
That's awesome.
There's
That's
very little
really-
in the Bible that's like, this is what boys do and this is what girls do. Very little outside of maybe like church structure and husbands and wives.
Right.
Like fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness
Yeah.
for men and women. So
Right.
dads, you love your son who loves fabric as a boy. You
Yes.
love your son who wants to play house and not say, oh, you're such a good mommy when he wants to play with the dolls. You say, what a great dad you are. Because dads are supposed to nurture too. So
Yes.
you're not saying, oh, you're categorically female. No, don't emphasize that. What a great dad you are. And you do help him belong in boy world with his version of boy.
Yes.
It's really
I love how you say that in your book about like just constantly affirming the child as their gender. Like,
Yes.
you're such a cool boy. Like, I love the boy that God made you to be. Like, I love the girl that God made you to be. Like, that I think that's really cool. Just putting that in the mix, just constantly just affirming them in their gender as their individual self.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you do? I'll give our examples of, we have Friday night pizza movie night. So we'll pick a movie, and we know there's websites and we go to those, but sometimes we miss it. And so we're in a movie it feels like really, kid friendly. And then there's a same-sex couple. And we have found ourselves wrestling with wanting our kids to be aware of that, but also not like inundated by it. And so we don't want our kids so often now our kids kind of know like we're probably going to turn it off. So we could be doing it wrong. And I'm literally asking
Yeah.
as we do that.
And we also have a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old watching the same movie. So
Right.
it's like
Us too.
so we're trying to think about like how this is going to affect each person.
Because everyone's indifferent, but just with that, like with what kids are watching and seeing, and not even like in a horrible way, but like it could be a harmless but yet same-sex marriage or relationship that is in this great movie that we're watching. What do you think? It's wrong that we turn it off and say, hey, we're not going to watch that? We have not addressed the why. Like we haven't sat down and gone, well, we're not going to watch that with our 6-year-old. We don't say to our 6-year-old, like, we're not going to watch that because there's a get into God's design in that Friday night pizza movie night. But what would you recommend in that? And like, how do y'all handle that in your home? Like, how do you address that
Yeah.
in your?
So this is tricky because there's not like movies aren't like, oh, I'm this type of movie. I'm this type of movie. I'm this type of movie. Like it's subtle and it is like, oh, but this is such a good movie. Why do you have to have his part in it? Dang it.
Yeah.
So, and then you're already invested. and tired and you have your shoes off on the couch. Like it's, you know, you're just like, you're
You
all
don't want to turn it
cozy.
off if you're in it. It's like, oh, it's good. And like,
How's
like,
it end, right?
yes,
Like,
so now we have to watch
so,
this. Are we
so
ruining your kids?
parents were so, and then you don't have the parenting coach in the room with you to be like, this is what you do. So
Right.
it's so annoying. I know, I see you. So as I have, by the grace of God, have thought about this, but take it or leave it. This is so not a formula. But like, okay, I have in my head, I'm like, okay, is this movie or book or whatever? Is it like the same sex relationship or gender struggle? Is that the primary storyline? Those we're definitely not watching. Is it, and we're going to turn it off. I'll tell you what to do when we turn it off. And then is it kind of in a storyline? That's like where it gets like super gray. It's like, okay, because stories are so powerful. Stories, like that's how God tells us about his love is through a story. We're like baked in stories. So it's like, is it the primary? Is it kind of? Is it medium? Is it 20%? And that's where it gets gray. If it's like a background character, I still may, like the middle one is like, do you turn it off? Do you not? I don't know. If it's in the background, I probably won't, but I'll probably address it. If it's like a background, like you're watching Great British Bake Off and like one character alludes to his husband or something, like what do you do then? That's like minor. It's not the main storyline at all. Okay. If you choose to turn it off, I would recommend being the awkward parent for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Insane. Because you did the what, it's what, why, how. And you don't have to do those all in the same conversation, but at some points in the like ethos of your family, like talk about these things regularly. Deuteronomy 6, like we're talking about it. So what did I just do is turn it off. Again, so your kid is like, did I do something wrong? Am I, like, that is also the thing with sexuality is like Satan is immediately like, you did it, kid. And you're like, no, this has nothing to do with you. It's the screen. But they don't know that. I'm not saying your kids thought that, but it could be. And so they're like question mark bubble, question mark bubble, question mark. What's happening? To put language to it. Why did I turn it off? Hey guys, I know they had a couple in there and they just believe about God's design for marriage that we don't believe. That's how I say it at this point, because we've talked about this a lot. Rats. And if I haven't done the why in a while, guess what mom's doing? We're doing the why again. Truly, we're circling back. And I'm like, it's not God's design, because marriage needs to be, and I'll wait for them at this point. My 11-year-old will say it, different. Different is the key word. God wants marriage to be between a mommy and a daddy, two people whose bodies are different. Because when moms and dads love each other, they show you a picture of how much God loves you, even though he's so different from us.
Yes.
They're like, we know, Mom. And they know it's important to me, so they don't roll their eyes too hard. But I'm sure they are inside. But I would say the why.
That's helpful. We're going to change that.
Oh, you're doing great. Doing great, guys. You're doing, oh my word.
There is a couple that we have kind of walked with, and their son, but he's moved out, and this family is such an amazing Christian family, and they are so distraught and just kind of just trying to figure out, like, their son has come back to them and said, hey, I am gay, and I think I'm gay. I want to bring my partner home and introduce y'all. And these parents are just really torn on like, what do we do with this? And how do we continue to love them? And I've said some things to them, but I know they're going to listen to this. And I know they're going to like be waiting to just be like, okay, what is the answer? What would you say to how should we love him? We want him to feel loved from us, but we also want him to understand we don't agree with that life.
Yeah.
So how do you coach people or help people in that scenario?
Is this child saying that they're Christians, that they're not? They're saying they're Christians.
It kind of walked away from the faith, kind of saying a little bit like, I don't know if I believe all that Jesus stuff.
Yeah.
And so just a little probably confused on it.
Yeah.
Where they were raised in the church and like that, they were in church with their parents all their life.
So the fact that he's not saying he's a believer makes it a little bit easier. Like if you look at 1 Corinthians 5, where it's like, hey, when I told you not to associate with people who are living in sin, I didn't say like non-believers. You'd have to leave this world to not associate with sinning non-believers. Like, hello. Yeah. So we're supposed to love our neighbors, which at this point, your son is your neighbor. But let me just back it up even further. The terrible and beautiful part of parenting is that it's also discipleship. And if you've ever discipled anyone, you know you can't control them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm regularly walking with and discipling people right now. And it's like been such good pre-teenage
Yeah.
training for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't make them do anything.
Yeah.
And I have to just pray and offer wisdom and pray some more and send them a meme and not a verse. And, when I know that they're not following Jesus, and call and say, how are you? And shut my controlling mouth down.
Yeah.
So it really, how do you disciple people? How do you, maybe to your son, how do you evangelize your neighbor?
Mm.
You love them where they're at. You
Yeah.
help them know the love of Jesus that empowers us to die to self. And so, do you have his boyfriend over? Do you not? Like, what would you do to your neighbor?
Mm.
And maybe you're like, no, actually, actually, as I'm praying about it, I feel like this is a boundary that the Lord is calling us to have. And like, that could be, it's just, that's where I'm not about to tell you the right and wrong thing to do, but the framework of discipleship, the framework of how do I evangelize my neighbor, even though this is my kid, which I hear you screaming at this thing right now, but it's also my child. And
Yeah.
okay, I hate telling this to parents of LGBTQ kids who identify as LGBT, because I feel their pain so badly. But like, you are getting to know the heart of the Father for us.
Mm.
How do you think the Father looks at us when we walk from him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, you are empathizing with God. Like,
Yeah.
he's empathizing with you as you look at your kid and you're like, what in the world? They're not following. He's looking at you and he's like, I know.
Mm.
And actually, it's not even just like a hypothetical. He's looking at the world. He's actually looking at your son too.
Yeah.
And he's
That's
saying, I actually love him more than you do. And I'm calling it, I've got his number.
Ooh. No.
I've got his nights and his days and his heart. So just, I see you parents, God sees you more.
Mm.
And as you can, just hold on to that vision of this is discipleship. And help me, Jesus, with the next sentence.
It's really great. It's very good.
Beautiful.
Well, I just we can wrap. I don't want to keep you all day. We can keep asking questions.
So before we do, I want you to tell us about your work at the center and help everybody understand.
Oh my gosh, we
what
haven't
you
even.
guys offer and what you specifically are doing there, because it's amazing, and I think I know people don't understand all the resources that.
We
Yeah.
haven't even talked
Yeah.
about all that. Like, you're working with one of our favorite people, Preston Sprinkle, who we have gone to for a lot of resources. And tell us
Yeah.
about what y'all are doing.
Yeah. So I've been in this field doing my own ministry work for the last 12 years, but I've also been a part of the Center for Faith, Sexuality, and Gender with Dr. Preston Sprinkle. I was a founding board member. He and I and his co-founder, we just like drove around Grand Rapids in 2016, just like, Lord, what are you doing? Is anyone else doing this work? And so been so fun to work with him. And now I went from board member to staff. I'm the director of parent programs and discipleship there. But what we're trying to do is equip millions with Jesus's vision for human sexuality. And so that's pastors, that's leaders, that's parents. My field is specifically parents and disciple makers of the next generation. And so we have created resources for you. It's called the Christian Sexuality Series. So for parents of teens, if you were like, how do I talk to my kids about the gospel and porn and LGBTQ and all of these things, we got it for teens. We have for kids, parents of kids who identify as LGBTQ. The one that I helped to write and film that we did with ton of amazing people: Kurt Thompson, Jackie and Preston Perry, Jay Stringer, John Tyson, John Mark Homer. They're all on this thing. We flew around the country and we created this resource for parents of kids 12 and under, although parents of older kids and disciple makers of older kids are blessed by it too, in the sense that it's simple. It's just nice when you're like,
Yes.
oh, I don't need a PhD in transgender to talk to my kids about gender. So not that the other ones are that, but it is sometimes nice to hear it more simply. So if you go to Christian-sexuality.com, you can find all of that, or centerforfaith.com. And then the book that you've been alluding to, that also the same content, it's just in video form. It's an 8-week video series if you want to do the video, or you can do the book as well. But yeah, we're doing conferences, 2.5 hour summits for parents to be like, here's a crash course. Now go do something else. So it's been really fun.
Oh, that's so good. I love what you're doing and love that what you're putting your hands to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for your work, and that you are, for your voice, and that we could even have access to it to bring to our listeners, and just keep going, because we need it, and we're so grateful.
Oh, I could say the same things back to you guys. Just thank you so much for your courage and bravery, and for leaning in, and just, I just know this work is not for the faint of heart. And so I'll be praying and cheering you on, and however I can help. Just so thankful to link arms with more people to push back the darkness and usher in the light.
Yes,
that is it. Well, thank you for being a gospel-centered voice in this whole topic. We are grateful for you. So thanks for joining us today on Open Spaces.
Oh, it's an honor.
How awesome is she? She's
so great.
A little fireball of passion and zeal for all of this, but she's such an encouragement. And we want to remind you about her resources. You can find her online. You can follow her on Instagram. And her book that we are reading currently is called Raising Wise Kids in a Sexually Broken World.
So good.
And you can find the resources that she was mentioning at centerforfaith.com.
Yeah, I think you should go there and just check out, especially parents. There's so much coursework and things that like we are trying to develop here at Open Spaces, but like they've done so much research and work, and you should go check them out because they have so much wisdom. So yeah, thank you, Laurie, for joining us today. We are so thankful that you were with us. So y'all, thanks for being with us. Go subscribe to the podcast, go do all the things. Follow us on Instagram, Open Spaces Podcast. So we love you guys. See y'all next time.